I want to do something tonight that I have never attempted to do before and may never ever try such a thing again. But tonight I want to preach a lesson that has 32 points. A 32-point sermon, if you can imagine that. The topic that we want to discuss is personal work. And the 32 points are intended to be motivators to help us do this important job, sharing the gospel message with others. 32 points, if you can imagine it. If we spend just 1 minute on each point, we'll be pushing the time limits that we have available for us tonight. So we'll have to go fast, and it'll be rapid fire. So pay attention, follow along closely, because we're going to be moving from one point to the next in quick succession. Before I start, I want to spend just a moment thanking you for being here. That's all the time I've got to say. Thanks for being here tonight. We're glad that you're here. Let's talk about motivation to do personal work. Number one, you can't lose them all. The law of averages guarantees you'll win some sooner or later. Hang in there and stick with it. If you look around, here we are in a room full of people who have at some point in their lives responded favorably to the gospel message. There are still people out there in the world who are seeking the truth. And what we've got to do is keep reaching out. And if we keep working at it, we are certain sooner or later to find someone who is seeking to know the Lord Jesus Christ. You can't lose them all. Keep trying. Number two, at any given time, it would be reasonable to say that 1% or more of your area population is interested in the Bible. It's a matter of fishing until you find them and then developing a friendly relationship. Think about that for just a minute. So this is totally arbitrary, of course, but just assume that there's 1% of the people in the world around us who are seeking to learn the truth and be saved eternally. So if there's just 1%, then you would need to contact 100 people potentially to find that one who is really looking for the truth. So now where's that one person going to be found? Am I going to have to talk to the whole 100 and he'll be the 100th person that I talk to? Maybe. Or he might be the first or second person that I talk to. The fact of the matter is we can't predict that. But again, even if there's just 1% of the population interested, we can find those who will respond to the truth. Number three, when digging for diamonds, you have to go through a lot of dirt. The same is true when searching for honest souls, but it's worth it. I've never mined for diamonds, but I understand the process, and I understand that you've got to sift through a tremendous amount of dirt to find just one precious stone. And this is the same thing true when sharing the gospel with the lost people of the world. It's worth it. Luke chapter 15 verse 10 says that the angels of heaven rejoice over just one sinner who repents. It's worth it. Go dig through the dirt to find that precious diamond. Sincere efforts in evangelism please God even if we don't change the world by our efforts. This is a key point. And I think we really need to accept the reality of this. We do this work of sharing the gospel, teaching others, personal work. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And even if there were never any positive responses to the gospel message, God is pleased and we are blessed if we do this work. Keep that in mind, and it keeps us motivated. Number five, there's no set quota that you must fill. God simply requires that you keep trying. Revelation chapter 2 verse 10 says, "Be faithful unto death, and you will receive the crown of life." The idea is keep on keeping on. We cannot say that we have to baptize. Okay, here at College View, we need to baptize 12 people within this calendar year. You can't say that. You can never put a quota number on it because that's not up to us, right? The response to the gospel is upon those who hear it. It's our job to share the gospel. We just got to keep trying. Realize that even Jesus wasn't 100% successful, and we shouldn't expect to be either. Jesus was the master teacher. There's never been anyone who even came close to the skill level that Jesus possessed in talking about
God in heaven. But even because Jesus, even though he was the master teacher, he wasn't 100% effective. The reason why he wasn't 100% effective is because every individual is a free moral agent, right? It's not just up to the teacher, it's up to the one who hears the message of the teacher. And so don't grow disheartened because you can't convince everyone. Facing the challenge of evangelism indicates spiritual maturity. Avoiding the challenge indicates immaturity. And the text that Eric read for us this morning, which was also a text that we talked about in our Bible class here in the auditorium this morning, we realize that there's an expectation that all Christians will reach a point when they can be able to teach others what they must do in order to be saved. And if you don't mature to that level, the indication of that text in Hebrews chapter 5, verses 12 through 14 is that there's something wrong. You're not growing. You're not maturing. There's an expectation. The time has come when you ought to be able to teach others, that text says. And so we need to realize that if we're not doing it, it's a sign that we're not maturing spiritually. Number 8, doing what you can in evangelism shows you care for the lost. Talk is cheap. Actions do speak louder than words. We can talk about trying to reach the lost all that you want to talk about. And we can have planning sessions and training sessions. If we don't finally get out and actually talk to them, actually do the work of teaching the lost, then we're really insincere. We're not really concerned about the lost if we don't really talk to the lost and try to teach them the gospel. Number 9, doing what you're able to do in evangelism shows you understand God's desire for Christians to do what they are able to do. You know this text, I think, Matthew 25, beginning verse 14. That's the parable of the talents. We obviously don't have time to read and study the parable of the talents tonight, but you know how it goes. And the main point of the parable of the talents is that there is an expectation for everybody to do what they can. You remember in the parable of the talents, there was a 5-talent man, a 2-talent man, a 1-talent man. The 2-talent man was commended for doing what he could. He didn't do as much as the 5-talent man, but he was commended because he did what he could. The 1-talent man, on the other hand, was condemned not because he didn't do what the 5-talent man did. He was condemned because he didn't do what he could with what he had. And so, God never expects us to do more than we're capable to do, but He does expect us to do what we are able to do, and we need to remember that. Doing what we're able to do in evangelism shows we care for the local work. We had a lesson this morning about loving the church, loving the local church here. Our continued existence as a congregation of God's people is dependent upon converting people to Christ. If we never convert another person, we're going to eventually just fade away. And so loving the local work is shown by virtue of the fact that we are interested in converting lost people. Number 11, the few or many. Hopefully it's many, but if it's a few or many, the successes you have will be worth the effort. They will be the most valuable successes of your life. What do you hope to achieve in life? I know that all of us have hopes, dreams, aspirations. I want to tell you though, nothing that you will ever do or accomplish in your life will have the significance of saving even one lost soul in eternity. This is an eternal outcome that you will accomplish if you convert the lost. We need to see it that way. This is more important than any other thing that we hope to achieve. It is so important. Number 12, you can't catch fish if you don't keep your bait in the water. Be a persistent fisherman. You're not a loser till you quit. Every fisherman knows this. You got to keep fishing. And you know, the fact of the matter is, fishermen are legendary for their patience at continuing to fish. I heard a story once. I don't know if I have time to tell the story. I heard a story once. The fellow, old farm fellow, went out to the river to fish one evening, and he didn't come back. He didn't come back all that night. The next day, he wasn't back. By evening the next night, the wife mother sent the son out and said, "Go look for your daddy. I'm worried about him," she said. Well, the boy went to the riverbank right where he expected to find his father fishing, and there he was, in fact. And the boy rushed up and said, Daddy, Daddy, we've been worried about you. You haven't come in all day and night. He said, hush, son. I got a nibble here just about this time yesterday. That's the concept of keep at it. Keep on, keep on. Fishermen do that. We need to do that with the spread of the gospel. Number 13, persistence will pay off. Matthew 10, verse 22. Matthew 10:22 says, he that endureth to the end shall be saved. And so we've got to be persistent in all regards of our spiritual service, and certainly true here. So we're looking at personal work motivators, things, just common observations that ought to get us busy doing this important work of sharing the gospel. Number 14, Number 14, continuous effort and contact bring you closer to success. You may recognize Acts 18 and Acts 19 that are referenced here. These have to do with Paul's work in spreading the gospel. We've studied not so long ago the book of Acts, and we know the Apostle Paul was absolutely tireless in trying to reach people with the gospel. He'd go to one town. He'd immediately go to the synagogue of the Jews. Very often they'd reject him. He'd spend more time there. See, he usually got ran out of town. He'd go to the next town, he did the same thing over again. He was continuous in his effort. And that continuity will bring us closer to success as well. Number 15, every effort when viewed in retrospect will probably teach you something and move you further up the ladder of maturity. We really learn by doing, don't we? Almost any skill develops as you do it over and over and over again. You get better at that, whatever that skill is. And the same thing is true in personal work. As we teach people, the more often we engage in the endeavor, the better we get at doing it. So keep seeing it that way. I had a chance to teach someone. Maybe I didn't get the positive result I wanted. And I may be able to look in retrospect and say, I could have handled this or that part of that exchange differently, might have had a better outcome. I'll do better next time. That's the way we need to approach this. Number 16, it is not your individual responsibility to convert the entire world, but rather to make an honest, sincere, and continuous effort in the area where you live. It's daunting to think about how many lost people there are in the whole world, but I don't have to reach them all. I just have to make a good faith effort to reach the people who are within my sphere of influence. You know, every one of us has a sphere of influence. People we know, people we're in contact with, people that we might be able to reach. Those are the people we're expected to work with. There's a lot of people in the world, well over 7 billion people in the world. I can't reach them all, obviously. But I do know a lot of people right in my immediate sphere, and those are the ones that I need to reach. Number 17, there is life for the personal worker after no. Think about that. What's the worst thing that someone can do? Well, probably the very worst thing they can do is say no. They don't want to hear what you have to say. Okay, that's not the end of the world, is it? They say no. There's a whole lot of other people who need to hear too, so I can move on to some others. That it's not the end of all things to simply be told no by the one you're trying to reach. Number 18, there's no greater challenge than that of becoming proficient in personal evangelism. Few exercise the self-discipline necessary to become proficient at personal evangelism. Will you be one of the ones who does exercise self-discipline to become proficient? You know, if you had a goal to be world class at something, I guess I haven't been paying much attention. I guess the Olympics is coming up right away in Japan. The people who will be engaging in those athletic competitions are at world class level. They didn't get that way by accident. They applied themselves. They worked very hard to be the best in their particular activity. They had to self-discipline themselves. And that's important here. We have to self-discipline ourselves to become proficient in teaching lost people the gospel. Number 19, what better way to express your love and appreciation to God and others than through personal evangelism? This statement conveys two important objectives. We want to show that we love God, and we want to show that we love our fellow man. What better way is there to address both those things simultaneously than to share the gospel with other people? It shows that you do love God. It shows that you love them. It's a win-win situation. Number 20, set a good example for the congregation. Do personal work. You know Matthew 5, verse 16. It says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. You know somebody that I need to be shining my light to? We often think of that and make a proper application of that as shining my light to the people of the world around me. But you know, there's also the people around me in the local congregation, my brethren in the local church. I need to let my light shine. And so I could set a good example to others right here in the congregation by doing personal evangelism, by being able to reach lost people, to convert folks, bring others, lost people to Christ. I'm telling you, that kind of thing is contagious. The more we do it, the more we'll influence others to do it as well. Set that example of being busy in this important work. Reason 21. We're making pretty good progress. We got 32 total here. We're at 21. Number 21, our job is not just to hold the fort, but to expand the borders of the kingdom also. Every once in a while, you talk to somebody and you ask them, maybe that you haven't seen them for a while, you know that they go to another congregation somewhere or another nearby, and you say, how are things going at such and such a congregation? Well, we're holding our own. You know, that's a really sad report, to just say we're holding our own. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to just hold our own, and we shouldn't be satisfied with that sort of a result. We want to be bringing the lost to Christ, and so realize it's not satisfactory. Our job is not fulfilled if we just say we're holding our own. Number 22, people are hungry for a better way of life. Show them the better way that Jesus offered. Yeah, I think this is really a true statement in our day and time. Even though we live in a very prosperous place and in a very prosperous time, I think there are a lot of people who realize that their lives are missing something. They may have money, they may have the things that money can buy, but there's just some yearning, something deep inside that's not satisfied with just material wealth and worldly things. Solomon wrote about it in the book of Ecclesiastes. We know he wasn't satisfied. He sought it all, and he wasn't satisfied when he had it. And his conclusion of the whole matter is fear God and keep His commandments. This is the whole duty of man. And I think people, if they're honest, and not everybody will be honest about this, but I think if people are honest, they'll admit they're wanting something better, something deeper, more meaningful. We need to find those people. Number 23, Satan can't stop you. And that's kind of an interesting thing. As powerful as Satan is, and we believe he is a real and very powerful enemy who's trying to oppose us best he can at every turn, but he's not able to stop us here. We can do this important work and Satan can't stop us. He does not possess the power to stop you from sharing your faith with other people. That's a motivator. That's encouraging to know. Number 24, let's face it, there's no magic formula. If the church is going to grow, we just have to be busy at work. I think it's interesting that, and I've been involved in this sort of thing plenty of times myself. You know, we try to come up with some new scheme, some way to get people in the community to pay attention to the gospel message. And so we dream up all different kinds of, tactics. That's not a bad thing. But the fact of the matter is there's no magic bullet. There's no way that you can say, oh, here's the key, and as soon as we do this, just people will come flocking in desire to obey the gospel. That's just not going to happen. The key to it is work. We got to work. And I really think a key to it is personal work. We have to be personally involved. It'd be great if we could hold our community Bible study as we have in the past and hope to in the future down at the Memorial Building. It'd be great if we have a gospel meeting and people just en masse just show up to be taught. That's not likely going to happen. More than likely, the way we're going to reach the majority of lost people is one-on-one. Me talking to him or her, you talking to him or her. Personal evangelism, our individual work in reaching other people, that's going to be probably the key, and we just need to do the work. 25, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. No pain, no gain. You know that expression, no pain, no gain. That's just simple here. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get the results. And we know that's true, right? Nobody doubts that that is, in fact, the case. If you don't do the work, you won't make any progress. No pain, no gain. But this is worthwhile. Notice, this is really a worthwhile thing. In fact, as we mentioned earlier, this is the most worthwhile thing. And it's not easy. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy. You got to work. If one idea doesn't work or one approach doesn't work, try another. Never, never, never quit. Galatians 6 verse 9. Galatians 6 verse 9 says, do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Don't grow weary. Don't give up. If one thing doesn't work, try something else. Keep working. 27, today's a new day. Forget yesterday's failures. Move on. You ever felt the sense of rejection when you were trying to share the gospel with someone? Did you ever feel it, sort of the disappointment of being rejected in your effort to reach them? Maybe, and I imagine you've had this experience as I have, you felt that someone was really close to obeying the gospel. And you were so hopeful and excited that they would make the decision to obey the gospel. And then maybe even at the last minute, they kind of veered off and left. That is sad. That's discouraging. That's a bad experience. But what we got to do is say, okay, I'll go to the next person. I'll keep trying. Forget the failures. There'll be plenty of failures. We won't be able to convert the majority of people. The majority of people will say no. Keep working. How about this? God doesn't reward laziness, but He does reward diligence. How about that word lazy? Boy, I want to tell you something. I don't want that word applied to me, do you? I don't want to be labeled concerning my work in the kingdom of God as someone who is lazy. God doesn't reward laziness, but He does reward diligence. And that's what we've got to have. In all regards to our service to God, we have got to be diligent. 29, personal work is like swimming in cold water. You're uncomfortable at first, but after a while you don't want to get out. I know you all have experienced that. You jump in the water and initially it takes your breath away. It's almost like it's just a shock to your system. When we lived in Knoxville, we'd go up in the Smokies a lot of time and we'd tube down the little river in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. That water, is ice cold. And when you first get in, it would just take your breath away. But as you stayed in it, after a while, it felt good and you were comfortable with it and you wanted to keep on going. And that's the way I think this business of sharing the gospel with the lost. When you evangelize, you're part of the solution. When you don't, you're part of the problem. I think that's a good observation. Matthew 12, verse 30 says, Jesus said, he that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. So Jesus said, if you're not doing this work, then you're not part of the solution. You're actually really part of the problem. Again, I don't think we want that label put on us. Number 31, even if you're on the right track, you still get run over if you just sit there. Christianity is a race. Get up and get moving. I think that is understandable without explanation. Point, period. Get up, get moving. It's a race. It's not a vacation. Get to work. All right, 31 of them there. And I hope all of them have some significance and maybe sort of tend to spur us on or motivate us. That's the whole point of this. Quick, rapid-fire motivators to get us doing personal work. But here maybe is the most significant one of all. What would motivate us to do personal work? Well, I think maybe the greatest motivation is to consider Jesus. and specifically consider his horrendous, torturous death on the cross of Calvary. Jesus paid that price. Jesus went to the cross. How can we sit idle when Jesus suffered and died that we might have the hope of eternal salvation? But not just us. Jesus didn't die just for us that we could be saved. He died for all who could be saved. And if we're not telling others about the opportunity of salvation purchased with the precious blood of Jesus, then in a sense, we are not letting his sacrificial death have its maximum coverage. Again, not everybody will respond. A minority of people will respond. We got to find those people, because in a sense, and I know I think this point could be argued or quibbled, but in a sense, we help to maximize the advantage of his sacrifice by getting that message out to more people who will hear and respond to the gospel. So the crucifixion itself should serve as maybe the greatest motivator of all to get us busy, to get us out there doing this important work. You didn't think we could do it, did you? 32 personal work motivators. That's rapid fire. But hopefully there's something there for all of us. Maybe one point got to you more than to the next person, and vice versa. But hopefully there's something there for all of us, because this is really important work. We've got to be busy sharing the gospel message with others. We need to be thinking about that. Part of the idea of motivation is just to keep it forefront in our mind, that we always are cognizant of the fact that we need to be talking to other people about Jesus. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been an encouragement. We're going to sing a song of invitation. If we can help in any way as we sing this song in getting your life right with God, please let us know while we stand and sing.